Oh, beautiful gems of thought and sentiment. Kind of something a little different today, guys. Gonna do some poetry reading, some just general reading from this book. It was published in 1937, I believe. And you can see it's very dilapidated and falling apart, but it is a true gem. And what I love about it is it's from a time when the world was a better place for white people. And it kind of ties us back into the sentiment, thoughts, perspectives, experiences, culture of our people. Um, so if you figure 1937, that's almost 100 years ago. I don't know, 90 years ago or so. You do the math. But hey, I'm an artist. Okay, I don't do math. Um, I honestly, I'm kicking myself because I can't remember exactly where I got this book. I think that my one of my grandmothers or maybe my great grandmother owned it, and I might have I love poetry. I was writing poetry in high school, and this is the kind of thing I would be like, oh my God, can I have that? Um, it was a very very long time ago, so unfortunately I don't really remember. But that's not really super important. The poor thing is falling to pieces, so I have to kind of be like extremely cautious. But let me try to just give you a little tour of some of the book. It's got some beautiful illustrations in it. Um, it's got music, sheet music. It's not all poetry. There's some. Oh, this is garbage here. We don't need that. Um, anyway, blah blah blah, this and that. So there's clippings of poetry. Here's one of the illustrations. Let's see if I can get this. It's interesting how it's got this kind of delicate sort of tissue paper to cover it, and that is exquisite. Look at that. This is an etching, so you can kind of see the lines there. But imagine having like a metal plate and scratching in lines at different weights to create light and shadow, and then covering it with ink, um, putting it on a press, with paper, and then rolling it out, and there you go. Like this is the kind of things that our people used to do, and now we've got Photoshop. But anyway, so like the book is really just it is truly a gem. Actually, it's quite exquisite. It's just very very hard for me to kind of handle it on this table and whatever, but I do want to try to show you some more if I can. Here's another illustration. And again, it's got this delicate tissue paper glued in to cover it, to preserve it. Um, this is a beautiful theme of family, and you can see that the mother's holding up the daughter. There's water in the background, and she's waving her hat, and here you can see some steam, probably from a steamboat. Or perhaps they're waving goodbye. Yeah, here it says goodbye to Papa. Isn't that lovely? It's just so lovely. Winter Crusader 21, welcome. Great to have you here. Doing a different show today. I just, of course I'm, a visual artist and I do that and yada yada, but I always feel like, there's so much more that I could do and I would like to do. So I'm going to try to go through this book if it doesn't fall to pieces on me. So be patient with me here as I kind of work through this. One of the most amazing things about this book is that there are clippings and postcards inside. Hold on, let me Give me a second. I'll just set this kind of aside a little bit. Sorry. If I only had four hands, it'd be so much easier, you know? Yeah, just give me a sec. So I feel like it's really neat because it's kind of like a window into somebody's past, you know, and there's some like kind of stories to that. So I'll just look at some of these. Hippocratic Oath. Why isn't the mom wearing yoga pants? And tattoos. Yeah, sleeve tattoos. I know. Like, gosh, what was wrong with women back then? Um, this is Burlington, Vermont. So what that would indicate to me is that this has to come from my great grandmother who lived in Vermont. She lived to be about 100. And there's an interesting story about her. There's Montreal. She, I guess, her and her husband, or my recollection, they had a little restaurant near the railroad, and you know, you're talking like turn of the century, you know, late 1800s, early 1900s, and the railroads were the thing, you know, and so having or rather a restaurant would, you know, that'd be a thing, right? So, but where does the food come from? Out in the woods. So, great, my great grandpa would go out hunting, you know, and whatever he caught that day was what was on the menu. So, raccoon, squirrel, you know, anything that they could find. Dublin Shore. Um, this is quite nice. Here we have Sunday at Revere Beach, Massachusetts. That's kind of charming. Oh, frick, hey man, I love these cards. Yeah. These are from the 1930s. And I'm about to go over a book, read over some poetry and some writings in a book that I have that was published in 1937. It's going to be a kind of a fun show with, you know, sort of a time machine show, I guess. We're going to go back in time. Let's see, what else have we got here? Prince Edward Island, Canada. And it's nice how these are colorized too, right? You know, the kind of black and white colorized images. Look at this, you know. Look at the a catch of sea trout at Prince Edward Island. Well, golly. Well, golly gee. That is a nice catch right there. So we're going to have a fine supper tonight. View from observation platform of Skyride, showing electrical building in foreground from Chicago's World Fair. The Chicago World Fair, dudes. Holy crow, we're going right back in time. Yeah, these are sweet. So these were in the book that I just showed you. Sorry about that. Let's get this here, and that is Greetings from Pembroke, Maine. That's funny because I recall stories of my mom's side of the family talking about visiting family in Maine. And like I had also in Massachusetts, my mom had an Aunt Barbara, but since she was from Massachusetts, it was Aunt Barbara, you know, or something like Aunt Bob, you know, like the, you know, that kind of Massachusetts accent, which I'm brutalizing, can't do well. Look at that, nice steamboat. The Sir Miles Standish. Baby is just a little. I can't really read that. There's some writing on here. Um, let's see. The Hotel Pemberton. Anyway, Main Street, Summerside, Prince Edward Island. Look at those. I love those Packard cars. When I'm rich, I'm gonna get me a Packard. I think they're fun. I just love it, you know. Anyway, into the classics. So, view from Cadillac Mountain, Acadia National Park. Wow. Oh, the the Ford plant in a sort of a slightly Art Deco style. Ford Exposition Building, Chicago World's Fair, um, by Kaufman Fabry Photo. Hmm. Um, Regards. So, what does it say in here? The date is 1934, September 1st, 1934. Um, some messages here. Beautiful handwriting. Oh, check that out. That's nice. That's really cool. So this looks like maybe some kind of bank, maybe. Interesting. So yeah, that was kind of a fun little jaunt. And here's the book. I'm gonna go through some readings here. Now this is primarily a poetry book. However, as you can see, they've got sheet music, and there's a section on of essays on just everything, nationalism, family. What's this here? Sorry, hold on. I guess it's like an index. I want to find the essays. I think there's some nice short readings. University, Masterpieces of Eloquence, Beautiful Gems. University of Conscience. On Parliamentary Reform. Demand for Justice in Ireland. Wow, that's a cool topic. The Crater of Vesuvius. Defense from the Charge of Tyranny. Wow. John Davenport's Influence upon New Haven. Where is the Enemy? Maybe that's a good one to read. On Funeral of Henrietta. So this is what I mean. They're just sort of Civilization of Africa. Virtue Alone Beautiful. Let me back out a touch. And then after this section is the music section. You gotta imagine people in the old days probably, had pianos and they could just sit down and do. The Death of Napoleon, that's a good one. The True Grandeur of Nations. I'm gonna read that one. Okay. Are you ready, dear listener? So let me say hi real quick to Winter's Crusader. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were somebody else. But anyway, damn, those are beautiful cards. Woohoo! True Grandeur of Nations. Casting our eyes over the history of nations, with the horror we discern the succession of murderous slaughters, by which their progress has been marked. Even as the hunter traces the wild beast when pursued to his lair by the drops of blood on the earth, so we follow man, weary, staggering with wounds, through the black forest of the past, which he has reddened with his gore. Oh, let it not be in the future ages, as in those which we now contemplate. Let the grandeur of men be discerned, not in bloody victories or in ravenous conquests, but in the blessings which he has secured, in the good he has accomplished, in the triumphs of benevolence and justice, in the establishment of perpetual peace. As the ocean washes every shore, and with all embracing arms clasps every land, while on its heaving bosom it bears the products of various climes, so peace surrounds, protects, and upholds all other blessings. Without it, commerce is vain, and ardor of industry is restrained. Justice is arrested, happiness is blasted, virtue sickened and dies. And peace has its own particular victories, in comparison with which Marathon and Bannockburn and Bunker Hill, fields held sacred in the history of human freedom, shall lose their luster. Our own Washington rises to a truly heavenly stature, not when we follow over the ice of the Delaware to the capture of Trenton, not when we behold him victorious over Cornwallis at Yorktown, But when we regard him in noble difference to justice, refusing the kingly crown which a faithless soldiery proffered, and at a later day upholding the peaceful neutrality of the country, while he received unmoved the clamor of people wickedly crying for war. Essay by Charles Sumner. Wow. Oops. Sorry, got a little excited here. Um, there's just so much amazing stuff here. So, improvement of the West, the vicissitudes of 1849. What is that about? No extension of freedom by force. I don't, I don't honestly know what these are. Invidious distinctions. Genoa in her beauty, the Mayflower, indemnity to Niagara sufferers. Oh, that's interesting. Um, effect of steadiness of pursuit. How about that? Let's do effect of steadiness of pursuit. Let me just check the chat real quick here. Ulfric says, I love that reference to Bannock Burn. Wonderful, wonderful historic reference. Yeah, I think this is really enjoyable. I could read, I could do a lot of shows like this, you know. Anyway, so effect of steadiness of pursuit. The most interesting instance of the efficacy of this steadiness of pursuit was given by the city of Athens. The most interesting because the object was most so. From the earliest times, Athens aspired to literature and the elegant arts. By a steady pursuit of the policy adopted with a view to this end, the city of Athens became such a monument of the arts that even her imperfect and dilapidated remains are at this day the wonder of the world. What splendors then must she have emitted in the day of her splendor, when in her freshness she met the morning sun and reflected back a rival glory, when she was full of the masterpieces of genius in every art, creations that were said to have exalted in the human mind the ideas of the divinities themselves. The fervid eloquence of Demosthenes failed, unequaled to the task, to do justice to those immortal splendors, when employed, as it occasionally was, for the purpose of his addresses to the Athenian people. It was by the steady pursuit of the same policy that their literary works of every kind came to be equally masterpieces of human genius, and be equally sorry and being more diffused and less impaired by the injuries of time than the other monuments of the arts. They were and still are the wonders of the world that after it the Athenians themselves could never surpass them, whilst others have never been able to equal them. Now, what has been the effect? Literature and arts have gathered around that city in charm that was and is felt by all mankind, which no distance, no time can dispel. No scholar of any age or clime but has made, in fancy at least, a pilgrimage to its shore, there to call around him the shades of the mighty dead, whose minds still live and delight and astonish in their immortal works. It is emphatically the city of the heart, where the affections delight to dwell, the green spot of the earth where the fancy loves to linger. How poor is brute force, even the most magnificent, even the Romans, compared to the empire of mind, into which all other minds pay their voluntary homage. Her literature and her arts acquired to Athens this empire, which her remains still preserve, and always will preserve. In contemplating the phenomenon of her literary achievements, a great and profound writer could not forbear saying that it seemed a providential event in honor of human nature to show to what perfection the species might ascend. Call it providential, if you please, as every event is, in some sense, providential, but it was the effect of artificial causes as much so as the military power of the Romans. It was the effect of a policy, early adopted and always after steadily pursued. Essay by Asher Robbins. And there you go. Wow. Um, Remembrance of Wrongs. Wow, I don't want to read like gigantic ones, just sort of shortish ones. Invective of Hungary. If Nullis were here, he would force me by gunpoint to read that. Sorrow for the Dead. Means of Health. The Last Nay. Dress reform. Oh, interesting. Dress, like the reform of how people dress. I don't know. When War Shall Be No More. Men Who Never Die. The True Patriotism. Oh my God, we're in the zone, guys. We are in the zone. Okay, maybe a Zoom might be nice if possible. I'm gonna use one of these guys to help me out here. Okay. When war shall be no more, death shall hereafter work alone, and single-handed, unaided by his most terrible auxiliary. The world shall repose in quiet. Far down the vista of futurity, the tribes of humankind are seen mingling in fraternal harmony, wondering and shuddering as they read the former brutality and exulting at their own more fortunate lot. They turn their grateful eyes upon us, their countenances not suffused with tears, nor streaking with kindred blood. We hear their voices. They are not swelling with tones of general wailing and despair. We look at their smiling fields, undevastated by the hand of rapine. They are waving with yellow harvests or loaded with golden fruits, and their sunny pastures are filled with quiet herds, which have never known the wanton ravages of war. We turn to the peaceful homes where our infantry has been cradled. They stand unspoiled by the hand of the destroyer. The scenes where we indulged our childish sports have never been profaned by hostile feet, and the tall groves where we performed our feats of schoolboy dexterity have never been desecrated to obtain the implements of human destruction. Then our thoughts extend and embrace the land of our birth, the institutions and laws we so much venerate, and something whispers us they shall endure forever. That all time shall witness their increasing perfection, that all nations shall copy from its example and derive interminable benefits from their influence. For war, the destroyer of every valuable institution, the great and sole cause of all nations' ruin, is soon to be seen no more forever. By Trevelyan Faber. Well, it's a fanciful notion of war never being seen anymore, but it's a beautiful thought. Let's talk about true patriotism. That's the next essay. Excuse me. True patriotism, with malice towards none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right as God gives us to see the right, let us strive on to finish the work we are in. to bind up the nation's wounds, to care for him who shall have borne to battle, and for his widow and his orphan, to do all which must achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace among ourselves and with all nations. By Abraham Lincoln. Whoa, okay, I didn't know that. I didn't read that. This next one is by Oliver Wendell Holmes. A Marvelous Clock. So truth that this one here must have been from the Civil War period. That little paragraph. Okay, A Marvelous Clock by Oliver Wendell Holmes. Our brains are 70-year clocks. The angel of life winds them up at once for all, then closes the cases and gives the key into the hand of the angel of resurrection. Tick tock, go the wheels of thought. Our will cannot stop them. Madness only makes them go faster. Death alone can break into the case, and seizing the ever-swinging pendulum, which we call the heart, silence at last the clicking of the terrible escapement we have carried so long beneath our aching foreheads. Oliver Wendell Holmes. You guys digging this? Should I keep going? Hola, Anna is here. Hola, lovely to have you, Anna. Men Who Never Die, and this is by Edward Everett. And I think I can just read it proper. Okay, so we dismiss them not to the chambers of forgetfulness and death. What we admired and prized and venerated in them can never be forgotten. I had almost said that they are now beginning to live that life of unimpaired influence, of unclouded fame, of unmingled happiness, for which their talents and services were destined. Such men cannot die. To be cold and breathless, to feel not and speak not, this is not the end of existence. And to the men who have breathed their spirits into the institutions of their country, who have stamped their characters on the pillars of the age, who have poured their hearts' blood into the channels of the public prosperity. Tell me, ye who treads the sods of yon sacred height, is Warren dead? Can you not still see him, not pale and prostrate? That blood of his gallant heart poured out of his ghastly wound, but moving resplendent over the field of honor, and rose to heaven upon his cheek, and the fire of liberty in his eye? Tell me, ye who make your pious pilgrimage to the shades of Vernon, is Washington indeed shut up in the cold and narrow house? That which made these men, and men like these, cannot die. The hand that traced the charter of independence is indeed motionless. The eloquent lips that sustained it are hushed. But the lofty spirits that conceived, resolved, and maintained it, and which alone to such men make it life to live, these cannot aspire. These shall resist the empire of decay, when time is o'er and worlds have passed away. Cold in the dust the perished heart may lie, but that which warmed it once can never die. Edward Everett. That's profound. I'm really loving this. I'm really, really digging this. This is a new vibe. Let's see, what do we got here? Ulfric says, I'm just here for the ride, bud. Yes, let's ride to victory, and then we'll ride to Valhalla. Ulfric, is your hand okay? Hope you didn't have an accident. Okay, so that's kind of funky. I went out to 2 clubs last night, and you know when you pay the money and then they stamp your hand, and then I went to the next club and they stamp your hand. You know, it's just one of those things. So it looks messy, but I'm fine. So, the world of beauty around us, society without morality, danger of vast fortunes, the ballot box, incentive of the Wilkinson trial. This is so fascinating, you know. But I love the spirit of the age here, you know, how how we have changed from then to now. True politeness, getting the right start, companionship with children, music, humility, portrait of a Dutchman, Napoleon at St. Helena, execution of Joan of Arc. I mean, whew, you know, this is our world, the hero, appeal for Queen Caroline, character of Major Andre, the good daughter's self reliance. There's so much wisdom in here, guys. This is certainly. So it's going to take me probably 1,000 hours to read. So get your popcorn. No, let's see. What's Dangers of Vast Fortune? Which. Hmm, I have to decide what I'm going to read here. No, I want to go back a little bit. These pages are so delicate. See? Just reading the book, this is what happens. Oh, God, that's sad. But I suppose I'm making a digital version of it. Stopping the March of Freedom. Whoa. Let's see. Maybe should I read that? I don't know. I'm curious what it's about. Okay. Stopping the March of Freedom. It is not for men long to hinder the march of human freedom. I have no fear that ultimately none at all, simply for this reason, that I believe in the infinite God. You may make your statutes, an appeal always lies to the higher law, and decisions adverse to that get set aside in the ages. Your statutes cannot hold him. You may gather all the dried grass and all the straw in both continents. You may braid it into ropes to bind down the sea. While it is calm, you may laugh and say, Lo, I have chained the ocean, and howl down the law of him who holds the universe as a rosebud in his hand. It's every ocean but a drop of dew. How the waters suppress their agitation, you may say. But when the winds blow their trumpets, the sea rises in his strength, snaps asunder, and the bonds that had confined his mighty limbs, and the world is littered with the idle hay. Stop the human race in its development and march to freedom. As well might the boys of Boston some lustrous night, mounting the steeples of the town, call on the stars to stop their course. Gently but irresistibly, the greater and the lesser bear move round the pole. Orion in his mighty mail comes up the sky, the bull, the heavenly twins, the crab, the lion, the maid, the scales, and that shining company pursue their march all night, and the new day discovers the idle urchins in their lofty places, all tired and sleepy and ashamed. Wow, that was wild. That's very creative interpretation. So let's do some poetry. Um, Heroism and Freedom. This is a good chapter. Song of Marion's Men. I'm kind of look around a bit here. Yes. The sea Battle of Fontenoy. The Battle of Fontenoy in Sine Eps. Let's do the Battle of Antinoy. Okay. Thrice at the heights of Fontenoy, the English column failed, and twice the lions of Saint Antoine, the Dutch in vain assailed. for town and slope were filled with fort and flanked battery, and well they swept the English ranks, the Dutch auxiliary. As vainly through De Barry's wood with British soldiers burst, the French artillery drove them back, diminished and dispersed. The bloody Duke of Cumberland beheld with anxious eye, and ordered up his last reserve, his latest chance to try. On Fontenoy, how fast his generals ride, and mustering come his chosen troops, like cloud at evertide. 6,000 English veterans in stately column tread, their cannon blaze in front and flank. Lord Hay is at their head. Steady they step down the slope, steady they climb the hill, steady they load, steady they fire, moving right onward still. Betwixt the wood and Fontenoy, as through a furnace blast, through rampart, trench, and palisade, and bullets showering fast. And on the open plain above they rose and kept their course, with ready fire and grim resolve that mocked at hostile force. Past Fontenoy, while thinner grow their ranks, they break and broke the Zuider Zee. I don't know what that is. They break and broke the Zuider Zee through Holland's ocean banks. More idly than the summer flies, can't read that, that's a French word, rush around at stubble to the lava tide. French squadrons strew the ground, bombshell and grape and round shot tore. Still on they marched and fired. Fast from each volley, grenadier, and soldiers retired. Push on, my household cavalry, King Louis madly cried. To death they rush, but rude their shock, not unavenged they died. On through the camp the column trod, King Louis turns his rein. Not yet, my liege, Saxe interposed, the Irish troops remain. And Fontenoy, famed Fontenoy, had been a Waterloo. Were not these exiles ready then, fresh, vehement, and true? Lord Clare, he said, you have your wish, there are Saxon foes. The marshal almost smiles to see, so furiously he goes. How fierce the look these exiles wear, who are wont to be so gay. The treasured wrongs of 50 years are in their hearts today. The treaty broken ere the ink wherewith 'twas writ could dry. Their plundered homes, their ruined shrines, their women's their women's parting cry. Their priesthood hunted down like wolves, their country overthrown. Each looks as if revenge for all has staked on him alone. On Fontenoy, never ever yet as elsewhere, nor ever yet elsewhere, rushed on to fight a nobler band than these proud exiles were. O'Brien's voice is hoarse with joy as halting he commands, fix bayonets, charge, like mountain storm rush on these fiery bands. Thin is the English column now, and faint their volleys grow. Yet, mustering all the strength they have, they make a gallant show. They dress their ranks upon the hill to face the battle wind, the bayonets, the breakers foam, the rocks, the men behind, like rocks. I'm sorry, guys, this is not the easiest thing to do. Their bayonets, the breakers foam, like rocks, the men behind. The one volley crashed from their line when through the surging smoke, with empty guns clutched in their hands, the headlong Irish broke. Boy, I bit off more than I can chew with this one. On Fontenoy, hark to that fierce huzzah. Revenge, remember Limerick, dash down the Sassenach, like lions leaping at a fold. What when mad with hunger's pang, right up against the English line the Irish exiles sprang. Bright was their steel, 'tis bloody now, their guns are filled with gore. Through shattered ranks and several files and trampled flags they tore. The English strove with desperate strength, paused, rallied, staggered, fled. The green hillside is matted close with dying and with dead. Across the plain and far away, passed on that hideous rack, while Cavalier and Fanticin dash in upon their track. On Fontenoy, like eagles in the sun, with bloody plumes the Irish stand, and the field is fought and won. Whew, by Thomas Davis. That was a lot to do and say. It's just wild stuff. I think it's very beautiful. Oh, I'm glad you like it, Hippocratic Oath. So this is on freedom. Ooh, here's a beautiful illustration. Let's take a look at this. Sorry, I gotta try to. This is really hard to do without like the whole book falling to pieces. So hold on. This piece here is called A Flirtation. I say it looks like this gentleman has given the lady a flower, which thus is a flirtation. So this is just exquisite. I mean, I guess if I can zoom in, and just kind of look at the insane amount of detail in this, it's like awesome sauce. So quite marvelous. A different time for our people. It was a different time. Influence of American, and then there's these weird like pages like this that must come from other books, and they're just kind of floating around in here. Maybe I'll read just one or two more. Sorry, I'll zoom out a bit. You guys digging this? Is this cool? This song is on point too. Keen AF, yes, Kino. They utilized in Murdoch 2. This music? Really? Wow. This is Eric Satie. It's one of my favorite composers. Love and Romance. Let's see. A Lover's Speech. My spirits, as in a dream, are all bound up. My father's loss, the weakness which I feel, the wreck of all my friends, and or this man's threats, to whom I am subdued, are but light to me. Might I but through my prison come? Sorry, this is just I'm destroying this. This is actually William Shakespeare, so that's like, and there's this one's from Edgar Allan Poe. Maybe I'll do the Poe one here. Okay. Edgar Allan Poe. To One in Paradise. Thou wast all that to me, love, for which my soul did pine. A green isle in the sea, love, a fountain and a shrine, are wreathed with fairy fruits and flowers, and all the flowers were mine. Ah, dream too bright to last, ah, starry hope, that didst arise but to be overcast. A voice from out the future cries, on, but o'er the past, dim gulf, my spirit hovering lies, mute, motionless, aghast. For alas, alas, with me the light of life is over. No more, no more, no more. Such language holds the solemn sea to the sands upon the shore. Yeah. It's sort of love and death is kind of what that seems to be. Ah, the Wandering Jew. Maybe not that one. His mother's cooking. That's funny. I cannot turn the key and my barn outside. That's bizarre. The jolly old pedagogue. The drunkard's dream. Now there's one I can relate to. Gertrude. The Cave of Silver. Interesting. The Death of Leonidas. Whoa, let's do the Death of Leonidas. That's going to be good. Oh boy. All right. Let's see. Ulfric says Real Red Pill Blues was the episode, I believe. Ah, interesting. The Death of Leonidas. It was the wild midnight. A storm was in the sky. The lightning gave its light, and the thunder echoed by. The torrent swept the glen, the ocean lashed the shore. Then rose the Spartan men to make their bed in gore. Swift from the deluge ground, 300 took the shield, then silent gathered round the leader of the field. Who spoke no warrior word, he bade no trumpet blow. But the single thunder roared, and they rushed upon the foe. The fiery element showed with the mighty gleam, rampart and flag and tent, like the specters of a dream. All up the mountainside, all down the woody vale, all by the rolling tide waved the Persian banners pale. And King Leonidas among the slumbering band sprang foremost from the pass, like the lightning living brand. Then double darkness fell, and the forest ceased to moan. But there came a clash of steel, and a distant dying groan. Anon a trumpet blew, and a fierce sheet burst high, that o'er the midnight threw a blood-red canopy. A host glared in on the hill, a host glared by the bay, but the Greeks rushed onward still, like Leonidas in their play. The air was all a yell, and the earth was all aflame, where the Spartans' bloody steel on the silken turbans came. And still the Greek rushed on beneath the fiery fold, till like a rising sun shone Xerxes' tent of gold. There's more. They found a royal feast, his midnight banquet there, and the treasures of the East lay beneath the Doric spear. Then sat to the repast the bravest of the brave. That feast must be their last. That spot must be their grave. They pledged old Sparta's name in cups of Syrian wine, and the warrior's deathless fame was sung in strains divine. They took the rose-wreathed lyres from eunuchs and from slave, and taught the languid wires that sounds that freedom gave. But now the morning star crowned Edda's twilight brow, and the Persian horn of war from the hill began to blow. Up rose the glorious rank to Greece, one cup poured high, then hand in hand they drank to immortality. Fear on King Xerxes fell, when, like spirits from the tomb, with shout and trumpet knell, he saw the warriors come. But down swept all his power, with chariot and with charge, down poured the arrowy shower, till sank the Dorians' targe. They marched within the tent, with all their strength unstrung. To Greece one look they sent, Then on high their torches flung. To heaven the blaze uprolled, like a mighty altar fire. And the Persians' gems and gold were the Grecians' funeral pyre. Their king sat on the throne, his captains by his side, while the flame rushed roaring on, and their paean loud replied. Thus found the Greek of old, thus will they fight again. Shall not the self-same mold bring forth the self-same men? By George Crowley. Interesting. It's interesting stuff. My gosh, it's almost an hour that I've been reading. Oh my gosh. To the Moon. Scenes in Nature. The Swiss Alps to the Rainbow. Ossian's Address to the Sun. The End of the Druth. So, spring, Ode to the Northeast Wind. Autumn, early spring, Indian summer. This is lovely stuff. Let's do the moon, okay? And I believe this should be the last of the poetry for this evening. I hope that you enjoyed the show. And do come again. I shall have another show tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, for which I shall join my English friend, Patriot, to do the theme of Yuletide and Christmas cheer. So that is tomorrow. Join us all. Should I read it with an English accent? That could be kind of fun. I don't know. Or is it annoying? Do you hate me now? To the moon. No, I won't do that. To the moon. Flooded are the breaks and the dell. Oh, by the way, this is from the German of Goethe. So I guess this is I don't know. It says from the German of Goethe, but the author is W. Edmund Stone. I can't, the misprint there, I can't read that. Anyway, so onward. To the moon. Flooded are the breaks and dell with thy phantom light, and my soul receives the spell of thy mystic might. To the meadow dost thou send something of thy grace, like the kind eye of a friend beaming on my face. Echoes of departed times vibrate on mine ear, joyous, sad, like spirit chimes as I wander here. Flow, flow on, thou little brook, ever onward go, trusted heart and tender look, left even me so. Richer treasures earth has none than I once possessed, ah, so rich, and when 'twas gone, worthless was the rest. Little brook, adown the vale, rush and take my song. Give it passion, give it wail, as thou leapt along. Sound it in the winter night, when the streams of full murmur it when skies are bright. Mirrored in the pool, happiness he of all created, who the world can shun, not in hate and yet unhated, sharing thought with none, save one faithful friend revealing to his kindly ear thoughts like these which over me stealing might the night so dear. It's just like a whole other way of thinking, and the way that English is woven in these patterns is so charming and lovely. Make the accent so posh we barely understand it. So posh. Well, posh being like high class, and it's only as I went to Oxford, so I could speak to everyone. But I quite like saying it. It's more like I'm from, the working class. I feel that it's a little more my style, if you don't mind. Right, so look here, we've got a nice little picture. Two wee little girls and their dog. What it's called? It's called The Three Friends. Lovely, lovely, isn't it? Oh, you can't see it, sorry about that. I'll zoom in a wee bit for you. Right, It's quite nice, that, isn't it? He's got a little flower here. Nice little bonnet on him. I'm sorry, I'll stop. I just, it's like, I'm like a frustrated actor, basically. I really want to be an actor in film. So I believe that will be the end of our show. Thank you for joining me for Beautiful Gems of Thought and Sentiment with Donald Kent. I will see you guys tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. I bid you